Captain Lee Hoon gripped the railing of his command bridge as the last alien warship disappeared into hyperspace. The massive Catherian dreadnought had been there moments before, its crystalline hull gleaming under the distant star's light. Now, there was only empty space and the cold reality of abandonment. "Sir, the Valorian fleet just transmitted their final departure codes." Lieutenant Park Soo-jin called from her station. Her voice carried a tremor she was trying hard to hide. "There." Heading back to their home systems, Lee Hyun watched the tactical display update in real time. Red dots representing the Krillian Horde crept steadily across the star map like a spreading infection. Blue dots showing coalition forces retreated in the opposite direction, following evacuation routes planned centuries ago. Only a handful of green dots remained Earth's small fleet, alone in the vast darkness. The communication system crackled to life. Admiral Kim Tae-ho's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his gray hair disheveled from hours of emergency meetings. Behind him, the faces of Earth's other ship commanders looked equally grim. "I've just finished speaking with the Coalition High Command," Admiral Kim said without preamble. "They've made their final decision. All member species are withdrawing. To fortified core worlds, humanity has been assigned evacuation coordinates in the Outer Rim territories." Commander Choi Min-ho of the heavy cruiser Endeavour leaned forward. "Evacuation, Admiral? What about our colonies? What about Earth?" "The Coalition considers them lost causes," Kim replied bitterly. "Their strategy is to retreat, fortify, and wait for the Horde to burn itself out, attacking their strongest positions." Captain Lee Hyun felt anger building in his chest. "So we're supposed to just abandon everything? Our homeworld, our people, our future?" "That's what they're telling us, yes." Through the bridge windows, Lee Hyun could see the running lights of other human ships scattered across local space. The Endeavour, the Guardian, the Phoenix, 12 ships in total, representing humanity's entire contribution to the galactic defense. Such a small force compared to the alien fleets that had just abandoned them. "How long do we have?" asked Captain Moon Jien from the destroyer Phoenix. Admiral Kim consulted his datapad. "Intelligence estimates 6 months before the Horde reaches our outer colonies. Maybe 10 months before they reach Earth itself?" The weight of those words settled over the conference like a funeral shroud. 6 months to prepare for an enemy that had consumed half the galaxy, an enemy that had driven species with technology far beyond humanity's into panicked retreat. Sir Commander Choi spoke up again. "The Coalition species have been fighting the Horde for centuries. If they think retreat is the only option, then maybe they've been fighting wrong," Lee Hyun interrupted. "Maybe that's exactly why they keep losing." Admiral Kim studied him through the hologram. "Explain." "Every species in the Coalition fights the same way defensive positions, calculated retreats, preservation of forces. They treat this like some kind of chess game where losing pieces matters more than winning." Leanne gestured toward the star map. "But the Horde isn't playing chess. They're a swarm. They adapt to defensive strategies because that's all they've ever faced." Lieutenant Park looked up from her station. "Sir, we're receiving evacuation. Orders from Earth Command. They want all ships to begin immediate withdrawal to the designated refugee zones." The bridge fell silent. Through the communication link, Lee Hyun could see the same message being received by the other ship commanders. This was at the moment when humanity would either follow the path of every other species or choose something different. Admiral Kim was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady. "The Coalition taught us their technology, their tactics, their strategies. But they never taught us their fear." Admiral Commander Choi asked. "We've been members of this coalition for 10 years. We fought alongside them, learned from them, trusted them, and at the first sign of real danger, they abandoned us like we never mattered." Kim's jaw tightened. Maybe it's time they learned something from us. Captain Lee Hyun felt a spark of hope. "Oh, yeah. What are your orders, sir?" "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that while other species run to hide behind their fortifications, humanity chooses to stand and fight. We're not abandoning our home. The communication channel erupted in voices as the other commanders began talking at once. Some voiced concerns about going against explicit orders. Others worried about facing an enemy that had defeated technologically superior forces. But underneath the debate, Li-Han could hear something else: excitement. For the first time in hours, they were talking about fighting instead of running. Sir Lieutenant Park called out, "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures. The Horde vanguard is moving faster than predicted." Admiral Kim nodded grimly. "Then we'd better get started. All ships, return to Earth immediately. We have a planet to defend and 6 months to figure out how to do what the rest of the galaxy thinks is impossible." As the human fleet began its journey home, Li-Han looked back at the empty space where their alien allies had been. They were truly alone now, facing an enemy that had devoured civilizations across the stars. But for the first time since the crisis began, he felt something other than fear. He felt ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when they had nowhere left to run. The Great Hall in Geneva had never seen anything like it. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat shoulder to shoulder with military commanders, scientists, and factory owners. The usual diplomatic protocols had been thrown out the window. There was no time for politics when extinction was racing toward them at faster than light speed. General Yoon Ji-woo stood at the central podium, her uniform crisp despite having worked for 36 straight hours. Behind her, holographic displays showed the grim mathematics of their situation. Red markers indicated Horde movements. Blue showed the retreating alien fleets. And tiny green dots represented Earth's pathetically small defensive force. "Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear about our situation," she began. "We have 6 months before the Horde reaches our outer colonies. Maybe 12 months before they arrive at Earth. Every other species in the galaxy is running away to hide. Behind their strongest fortifications," a murmur rippled through the crowd. The Chinese defense minister raised his hand. "General, if species with far superior technology are retreating, perhaps we should consider what? Running." Dr. Han Seojin stood up from his seat near the front. The elderly xenobiologist had spent decades studying alien life forms, and his face was grim. "There's nowhere to run. The Horde has consumed half the galaxy using the exact same pattern. They encounter defensive positions, they adapt, they overcome, they move on." President Park leaned forward in her chair. "Dr. Han, what exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying that every species fights the Horde the same way. They build bigger walls, stronger shields, more powerful guns. But walls can be broken, shields can be penetrated. The Horde learns from every encounter." Han gestured toward the star maps. "That's why they keep losing. They're fighting yesterday's war against an enemy that evolves." The Russian admiral spoke up. "Then what do you suggest we do? We can't match their technology." General Yoon stepped forward. "We do what?" "Humans have always done when facing impossible odds. We adapt faster than our enemies. We innovate. And most importantly, we share everything." The room erupted into heated discussion. Captain Li-Han, sitting with the other fleet commanders, watched as decades of international competition and secrecy began crumbling in real time. The American general was arguing with the European defense coordinator about classified technologies. The Japanese representative was insisting that certain manufacturing techniques couldn't be shared. President Park stood up, and the room gradually fell silent. "I'm ordering the immediate declassification of all military research. Every nation, every corporation, every laboratory will share their technologies freely. Anyone who refuses will be considered an enemy of humanity." The impact was immediate. Dr. Kim Manesio from the Korean Advanced Institute stood up. "If we're really doing this, I can share our quantum processing research. It's been classified for 5 years. And I can provide our new metallurgy techniques," added the German industrial representative. "We've been keeping them secret for competitive reasons." Within hours, the greatest scientific collaboration in human history was underway.
Captain.
Li-Han found himself reassigned from Fleet Command to something called the Rapid Integration Project. He reported to a converted aircraft hangar outside Geneva, where Dr. Kang So-young was leading an effort that would have been impossible just days before. "Captain, welcome to Organized Chaos," Dr. Kang said as they walked through the facility. Around them, scientists from dozens of nations worked side by side, dismantling alien technology and rebuilding it with human modifications. See that group over there? They're combining Valorian energy weapons with human targeting systems. The Valorians could never hit anything smaller than a moon, but our systems can target individual fighters. Lihan watched in amazement as a team of engineers installed what looked like alien crystals into a human missile guidance system. How is this possible? I thought alien technology was incompatible with ours. It is, mostly. Very good at making incompatible things work together. Dr. Kong led him to another station where a massive Keth defensive generator was being rewired. The Keth build these shields to protect entire cities, but they're slow to activate and drain enormous amounts of power. We're modifying them to work on individual ships' smaller range but much faster deployment. And they're just giving us this technology. Dr. Kong laughed bitterly. They left it behind when they retreated. Apparently it was easier to abandon their equipment than to trust us with it. Their loss. At the next station, biologists were examining samples of Rylan biotechnology. This is incredible, one of them was saying. Their self-repairing hull material could revolutionize ship construction. But instead of growing it slowly like the Rylans do, we can mass-produce it using our industrial techniques. Hyun began to understand the scope of what was happening. You're not just copying their technology, you're improving it. Exactly. The coalition species have been using the same technologies for centuries. They perfect them, but they don't innovate. Humans take something that works and immediately start asking how to make it better, faster, cheaper. Dr. Kong showed him a prototype weapon that looked like nothing he'd ever seen. This combines Valorian energy projection, Keth crystalline, focusing Rylan biological components, and human engineering. No single species could have built it. Outside the hangar, Li Haiyan could hear the sound of construction. Factories around the world were retooling their production lines. Civilian shipyards were being converted to military use. Most remarkably, information was flowing freely between nations that had been rivals for generations. Dr. Kalm, do you really think this will work? Can we build enough ships and weapons in 6 months to stop an enemy that's been conquering the galaxy for centuries? She looked at him seriously. Captain, I don't know if we can win, but I know we're going to do something the galaxy has never seen before. We're going to fight as one species, with one goal, using every piece of knowledge and technology we can get our hands on. And if that's not enough, then at least we'll go down fighting instead of hiding. The alarm sirens on New Busan Colony had been wailing for only 3 minutes when the first bioships emerged from hyperspace. Captain Li Hun watched from the bridge of his newly modified cruiser Defiance as the Krillian Horde materialized, like a nightmare made real. Sweet mother of... Lieutenant Park Soo-jin's voice trailed off as the enemy fleet filled their view screen. These weren't the clean metal ships that humans or other coalition species built. These were living things, massive creatures that pulsed and writhed in the vacuum of space. Their hulls looked like black coral mixed with diseased flesh, covered in tentacles that reached out hungrily toward the human colony below. How many? Li Haiyan asked, though he could already count them himself. 37 bioships ranging from small fighter-sized organisms to massive creatures the size of Earth. Battleships. Sir, the colony is requesting immediate evacuation support, reported Communications Officer Kim Ji-hoon. They have 18,000 civilians down there. Li Haiyan looked at his own fleet. 8 human ships, all experimental designs mixing. Human engineering with salvaged alien technology, against 37 enemies that had been consuming star systems for centuries. The math was simple and terrifying. All ships, this is Defiance. Attack pattern Delta. Move in fast, hit hard, and record everything. Remember, we're not here to win this battle. We're here to learn how to win the war. The human fleet accelerated toward the swarm. Dr. Kang So-young, now permanently assigned to Li Haiyan's ship, monitored her instruments with intense focus. Captain, I'm detecting massive bioelectrical activity. These ships are definitely alive, or something close to it, Li Haiyan muttered as the first bioship fired at them. The weapon was an energy or projectile-based hit, with some kind of acidic plasma that seemed to eat through their shields. All ships, close to ramming distance, need to get close enough to board them. What followed was the strangest battle. In human history, instead of the long-range dueling that characterized most space combat, the human ships dove directly into the swarm. The destroyer Phoenix rammed a wounded bioship and immediately launched boarding parties. The cruiser Guardian used its modified Keth shields to literally push smaller enemy vessels into each other. "This is insane," Park Soo-jin whispered as they flew between tentacles the size of subway trains. Around them, the bioships were adapting their tactics in real time, learning from each human attack and adjusting their responses. But Dr. Kang was making discoveries that would change everything. "Captain, look at these readings. The bioelectrical patterns aren't random. There's a structure to them, like a computer network." "You mean they're communicating?" "More than that. I think they're all connected to some kind of central control system. Watch this." She highlighted one of the smaller bioships on her scanner. This one just received a transmission from the largest vessel and immediately changed its attack pattern. Lee Haeon dodged another plasma burst while processing this information. "So they're not individual creatures fighting together. They're more like body parts of a larger organism." "Exactly. And if that's true, then there might be a way too." Dr. Kong's words were cut off as the Defiance took a direct hit. Ships shuddered, and several consoles sparked and went dark. "Sir, the boarding party from Phoenix is reporting something strange," Kim Ji-hoon called out. "They say the inside of the bioship looks like a machine, not an animal." Dr. Kong's eyes widened. "Captain, I need to see that data immediately." The information from the boarding party changed everything. The bioships weren't truly alive. They were incredibly sophisticated biological machines, grown rather than built, but still machines nonetheless. Each one contained what looked like a control center, a massive neural tissue that received and processed instructions. "They're programmable," Dr. Kong said with growing excitement. "The whole Horde isn't a swarm of living creatures. It's a fleet of biological robots following preset instructions. Can't we reprogram them? Theoretically, yes. But we'd need to interface directly with their neural centers while they're active. And the feedback could be lethal to whoever attempts it." Lee Haeon looked around his bridge at the young crew members who had volunteered for this mission. Were all in their 20s and 30s, brilliant officers who had known this might be a one-way trip. "Dr. Kang, prepare the neural interface equipment. We're going to try it." The first attempt was made by Lieutenant Nam Jun-ho, communications specialist who had studied alien technology for years. The interface lasted exactly 47 seconds before the bioship's neural matrix overloaded his mind, killing him instantly. But those 47 seconds provided crucial data about how the control systems worked. The second attempt, by engineer Lee Soo-jin, lasted almost 3 minutes before she collapsed. But in those 3 minutes, she managed to send a shutdown command to one of the smaller bioships. It stopped attacking and began drifting in space. By the fourth attempt, they had learned enough to successfully reprogram an entire bioship. Ensign Park Min-woo survived the neural link and managed to turn a medium-sized vessel against its own swarm. Then another, then a third. The battle ended with something unprecedented in Galactic History 3. Krillian Horde bioships firing on their former allies while following human commands. The remaining enemy vessels, apparently programmed to retreat when facing unexpected resistance, jumped back into hyperspace as the human fleet regrouped around New Busan Colony. Rescue ships arrived to evacuate the survivors. But more importantly, word of what had happened began spreading across the galaxy's communication networks. The humans had done something impossible. They had captured and reprogrammed Horde bio-ships. Unfortunately, when the news reached the coalition, governments, their response wasn't celebration. It was horror. They viewed the human tactics as dangerously reckless, the neural interfacing as barbaric, and the whole concept is too risky to support. But Captain Lee Hyun didn't care what the aliens thought anymore. He was looking at 3 captured bioships and thinking about what an entire fleet of them could accomplish. The war was just beginning. Captain Li Heon stood on the bridge of his flagship Defiance. But the view outside was unlike anything any human had ever seen before. Half of his fleet consisted of familiar human ships with their clean metal hulls and geometric designs. The other half were living nightmares, massive biovessels that had once belonged to the Krillian Horde. Now flying in perfect formation under human control, Sir Commander Oh Se-han is reporting from Redemption, Lieutenant Park Soo-jin announced. She had grown accustomed to working alongside the converted bioships, though her voice still carried a hint of unease when discussing them. The communication screen flickered to life, showing Commander Oh's face inside what looked more like a living cave than a ship's bridge. Organic walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and neural interface cables ran directly from his skull into the ship's control systems. The cybernetic modifications that allowed him to pilot the bioship had changed his appearance dramatically metallic. Implants covered half his head, and his eyes now glowed with an artificial blue light. "Captain, we've successfully turned another enemy cluster," Oh reported, his voice carrying a slight electronic distortion. "The 12 heavy bio-cruisers have joined our fleet. The neural conversion process is becoming more efficient with each operation." Li Heon nodded, though the sight of his old friend's transformed appearance still unsettled him. Oh Se-han had been one of the first volunteers for the neural interface program, back when they barely understood how it worked. The procedure had nearly killed him, and the cybernetic implants required to survive the connection had changed him permanently. But he could now control bioships with a precision that amazed even Dr. Kong So-young. "Casualties?" Li Heon asked, though he dreaded the answer. 2 interface operators didn't survive the connection attempts. But we saved their data patterns. Each failure teaches us how to do better next time. It was a grim calculus that had become routine over the past 6 months. Of the first 100 volunteers for neural interface duty, only 37 had survived the initial procedures. But their sacrifice had created something unprecedented in galactic history: a human-controlled fleet of converted Horde vessels. That grew stronger with each victory. The communication switched to show Admiral Kim Taho from Luna Base, where Earth's military command had been relocated for safety. The older man looked exhausted but amazed as he reviewed the tactical displays, showing their growing fleet. "Captain, in 8 months, we've accomplished what the entire Galactic Coalition couldn't do in centuries of fighting," Admiral Kim said. "We now have over 200 converted bioships under human control." Dr. Kong So-young, now Earth's chief xenobiologist and neural interface specialist, appeared on another screen from her laboratory ship. The months of constant research had aged her visibly, but her eyes burned with scientific excitement. "Admiral, it's not just our tactics that make this possible. It's our fundamental approach to warfare." Explain. "Every other species in the galaxy fights to preserve what they are. They retreat to save their ships, their people, their way of life. But humans fight by becoming what we need to become. We don't just use the enemy's weapons, we become part of them." Li Heon understood what she meant. The neural interface program had created a new type of human warrior, part organic, part machine, capable of melding with alien biotechnology in ways that horrified other species. But it worked. A new signal came through from the edge of the system. "Sir, we're receiving an unscheduled transmission from a Valorian ship," Park Soo-jin reported. The screen showed a young Valorian officer, her crystalline features tense with desperation. "This is Subcommander Veltar of the Valorian Navy. I'm requesting permission to join your fleet," Admiral Kim frowned. "Subcommander, your government has explicitly forbidden any cooperation with human forces. Your ship should be in retreat with the rest of your fleet." "With respect, Admiral, my government's strategy is failing. We've been retreating for 300 years and the Horde keeps getting stronger. Your species has done more to stop them in 8 months than we've accomplished in centuries." Li Heon leaned forward. "Subcommander, our methods are extremely dangerous. The neural interface process has a high mortality rate, and the cybernetic modifications are permanent." "I understand. The risks, Captain. But I've studied your battle reports. You're not just fighting the Horde, you're beating them. If joining you means becoming something new, then that's what I choose." Over the following weeks, more alien officers began arriving. Young Catharians who were tired of endless retreat. Rylan scientists fascinated by human biotechnology integration. Even a few Zephyrian pilots who wanted to try flying converted bioships. Their governments recalled them, threatened them, even declared some of them traitors. But they kept coming, Sub-Commander. Veltar became the first alien to undergo neural interface modification. The procedure nearly killed her alien nervous systems weren't designed for the cybernetic implants that humans used. But Dr. Kong's team adapted the technology, and Veltar successfully linked with a converted bioship. Your species shows us what we forgot, she told Li Heen after her first successful mission commanding a biovessel. Her once pristine crystalline features now bore metallic implants similar to the human interface operators. That some things are worth any price. But even as individual aliens joined their cause, the governments of the galaxy remained committed to their ancient strategies. Coalition leaders condemned human tactics as barbaric and reckless. They refused all offers of cooperation and continued their retreat to fortified core worlds. Li Heen watched his mixed fleet of human ships and converted biovessels preparing for their next mission. They were no longer just defending Earth, they were actively hunting horde swarms throughout the sector. Turning more bioships with each battle, the galaxy's old order was crumbling, and something new was being born from humanity's willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. The biofactory hung in space like a cancerous moon, its surface writhing with activity that made even experienced soldiers feel sick just looking at it. Captain Li Hun stood in the command center of the combined human-alien fleet, watching long-range scans of their target. The factory was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon, and covered in what looked like massive feeding tubes and birth canals that constantly spawned new horde vessels. How long has this thing been operating? Sub-Commander Veltar. Her crystalline features now marked with the neural interface implants that allowed her to pilot converted bio-ships. Dr. Kang So Young consulted her data. Based on the energy signatures, at least 10,000 years. Maybe longer. It's been churning out horde swarms for millennia, probably since before any of our civilizations existed. The tactical display showed the nightmare they faced. The biofactory was surrounded by thousands of defending bioships, more enemies than humanity had ever encountered in one place. But worse than the numbers was the massive neural network that connected every single vessel to the factory's central consciousness. The entire horde is really just one giant organism, Dr. Kong explained to the assembled commanders. Every bioship we've ever fought was just a finger or toe of this massive creature. If we can reach the brain and shut it down, every horde vessel in the galaxy will simply stop working. Admiral Kim Tae-ho leaned forward. What do we need to do? 3 ships need to penetrate the neural core simultaneously? The factory's consciousness will try to defend itself. But if we can overload its control systems from multiple points at once, we can force a complete shutdown. Dr. Kong's voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. However, the neural feedback from destroying something this large will be enormous. Anyone connected to our converted ships during the shutdown will die instantly. Fell silent. Every person present understood what that meant. The neural interface operators, who had become part human, part machine to pilot the converted bioships, would not survive the mission. Commander Oh Se-hun stepped forward. His face was now more machine than human, covered with the cybernetic implants. That allowed him to merge with bioship consciousness. I'll take redemption into the core. My neural compatibility rating is the highest in the fleet. Captain Moon Jin, another early volunteer whose appearance had been dramatically altered by the interface procedures, nodded grimly. I'll pilot liberation. We've come this far together. Li Heen looked at his own ship, the Defiance. Over the months of fighting, it had been modified so extensively that it was now part human engineering, part alien technology, and part converted horde biotechnology. Like its crew, it had become something entirely new. I'll take the third run, he said quietly. The final battle began at dawn, though in space there was no real dawn, just the moment when human courage decided to face the ultimate darkness. The combined fleet of human ships, converted biovessels, and alien volunteers smashed into the factory's defenses like a hammer blow. The defending Horde swarms fought with desperate fury, as if they finally understood that their existence was threatened. Bioships the size of battleships swarmed around smaller human vessels. Plasma weapons lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. Ships exploded on both sides as the battle raged across millions of cubic kilometers of space. But this time, the humans weren't fighting alone. Valorian crystal ships provided long-range support with their precision weapons. Therian vessels used their advanced shields to protect damaged human ships. Even Rylan bioengineers helped modify Horde weapons in real time during the battle. For 18 hours, the fighting continued. Slowly, painfully, the combined fleet carved a path through the swarm toward the biofactory's neural core. Ships were lost, good ships with brave crews, who had volunteered for what everyone knew was essentially a suicide mission. Finally, 3 converted bioships broke through the last line of defenders. Li Hian, Osehan, and Moon Jian guided their vessels into the factory's neural center, a writhing mass of organic machinery that pulsed with malevolent intelligence. Neural links established, Osehan reported, his voice already distorting as the interface connected him directly to the factory's consciousness, beginning shutdown sequence. System integration at maximum, Moon Jian added. Her words came out strangely, as if she was speaking through the bioship itself. Li Hian felt his own mind merging with the alien machinery around him. For a moment, he could sense the vast intelligence of the factory enchant, hungry and utterly alien, but also surprisingly fragile when attacked from within. All ships, shut down in progress, he managed to say, "Tell Earth. Tell them we did it." The 3 ships simultaneously overloaded the factory's neural core. The massive biofactory convulsed like a dying animal, its surface rippling with shockwaves as its control systems collapsed. The feedback killed the 3 crews instantly, but their sacrifice sent a shutdown signal racing across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every Horde bioship in existence simply stopped. They drifted in space like empty shells, their animating intelligence gone forever. When the galaxy's species finally emerged from their fortified worlds, they found a universe transformed. The Horde that had terrorized them for millennia was gone, and standing victorious were the humans and their ally species that had learned to work together, to sacrifice for each other, and to become something greater than the sum of their parts. The old Galactic Defense Coalition, built on fear and isolation, dissolved within a year. In its place rose the Terran Alliance, founded on human principles of cooperation, shared sacrifice, and the belief that some things were worth any price to defend. Admiral Kim Taeho, now the Alliance's first Supreme Commander, often stood in the memorial hall where the names of the fallen were carved in stone. Li Hun, Osehan, Moon Jian, and hundreds of others who had given everything to save the galaxy. They didn't just save us, Sub-Commander Veltar would say to visitors, her alien features now bearing the same neural implants as her human comrades. They showed us what it really means to be alive.